Alright guys, so I came across this video. See a lot of sad faces, some of the reactors. So I guess this is gonna be a very hard video to watch, but I'm here to react to it. To see what's going on. Let's jump in. America's bad at everything. America continues to be bad at everything. Rat pig. Oh, okay.
America is the greatest country on earth, the strongest, the richest, the most powerful country on earth. As an American, I'm sure you've heard that roughly 135 times a year. 235 if you go to public school. 335 if you go to a Christian academy. We're told that Americans have the best lives of any people in the world. That we have low taxes, small government, and the highest living standards on earth.
Who said that we had the lowest taxes? I don't think so. We have one of the highest taxes in the world.
And most inaccurately, that we're the freest. Well, it is partly true. America is the richest country, not just in the world, but in the history of the world. It's really hard to comprehend just how rich we are. We have 18 million people who are millionaires. American households own about
18 million millionaires. Oh, okay.
$100 trillion in wealth,
That's
an
a lot of
almost
money.
unthinkable amount of money. Okay, so America is the richest country ever. But there's a curious paradox. Most Americans actually have a much worse standard of living than people who live in poorer countries like Germany or Finland or Britain. But how can that be? That shouldn't make any sense. Well,
they're not poor countries, man. What are you talking about? Finland, Germany? They have money over there, man. They have money.
The shitty deal. Americans get significantly worse services because our tax dollars don't fund them. So of course our services are worse, and thus we enjoy less happy lives than people who live in the aforementioned countries. Not that difficult a concept to conceive, really. You get what you pay for, said the cartoon dog to the other cartoon dog. And while you might think the reason American tax dollars don't fund as many services is because we pay lower taxes than other countries, that's not even true. When you add federal, state, local, and sales taxes and include other costs and services that our taxes don't cover but other countries' taxes do, like our uniquely high health insurance premiums, you'll find that Americans actually give away more of their wages than most of the developed world. For example, in Canada, for a married worker with 2 kids, all of the previously mentioned costs combined, from taxes to health insurance premiums, make up only 11% of the average wage. In the UK, it's just about 26%. Meanwhile, once you tack on the cost of our outlandish health insurance premiums, you're spending a whopping 43% of your paycheck. That's more than France, Finland, Sweden, and Norway.
43.
In real reality, Americans keep much less of what we own than in other countries. In other countries, their government takes a bit more tax, but then gives that money back to their citizens in the form of healthcare or job support, or a general safety net for all vulnerable citizens, no matter how dusky they are. So what do Americans get for the money we pay in? Well, sure, we get a crumbling infrastructure, shameful homelessness, and millions of hungry, neglected children, but we also get some of the worst services in the developed world.
What state do we have that homeless crisis? We have to mention that. Where? Because let's say there's only like 4 or 5 states that have the most homeless in the country. We should mention them. We should not put all the blame in the other states. There's states that they're doing very well. They're doing very well. They have a private health care. They don't need, they don't need anything from the government. They're doing very well. But we have to mention where are this homeless crisis happening. And I know where it are. California, New York, Oregon, Washington State. We have to mention these states and point them with their finger because they have a lot of money. New York City, my goodness, one of the richest states in the union, and this one of the richest cities in the entire United States, and their service is crappy, man. Very crappy. But then you go to a different state, a poor state, you get to, let's say Wyoming, they don't have these kind of problems. They just happy to live their life. They're happy just, living their own life. They have the lowest taxes. It is what it is. We have to mention things by name.
Again, our healthcare. American healthcare is simultaneously the most expensive, the least efficient, and the least effective healthcare system in the developed world.
Wow.
Hey, the devil's trifecta. And in exchange for this extremely expensive, inefficient healthcare system, what do we get? Well, we get some of the worst health outcomes in the developed world. We have fewer hospital beds per capita than people in Turkey or Brunei. Americans have a lower life expectancy than people in Lebanon or Cuba. And in the Mississippi Delta, and much of
Hold on. Is that true? Hold on. Cuba?
Americans have a lower life expectancy than people in Lebanon or Cuba. And in the Mississippi Delta and much of Appalachia, life expectancy is lower than in Bangladesh.
Appalachia. Well, yeah, man, but those people are like in the middle of nowhere, man, kind of thing. They just, like, these people don't even believe in anything, man. I'm nothing against the people of the Appalachian, right? But it's not a fair comparison, man. These people they just like to live like that.
In fact, in 2017, the United Nations sent a commissioner to West Virginia to document what he saw, and he described, quote, third world conditions of absolute poverty, unquote. We even have a higher infant mortality rate than people in Russia and Serbia. In every single metric, America does worse across the board. So why is healthcare so expensive? Because it's so complicated. You have to look for in-network physicians, schedule an established care appointment, beg for coverage from your insurance company that couldn't care less about you, and that's if you're lucky enough to have good insurance. Compare that to Britain and all of those other evil, socialist-like countries where it's simple. Public hospitals provide free treatment to people who need it. That's it. I'll repeat that. Public hospitals provide free treatment to people who need it. And here's the best part. Even though Britain offers healthcare for free, their system is actually a lot cheaper to run than ours. Per capita healthcare spending in the U.S. is almost 3 times what it is in Britain.
It's very expensive.
And
It's true,
almost 5
man.
times what Canadians spend.
Oh, wait.
In
Hold
fact,
on. It's true. The healthcare here is kind of expensive. It's true. But why is it expensive? Thank you, baby. Why is it expensive? If that's the question. Not saying expensive, it doesn't really fix the problem. It just acknowledges there's a problem. True. So why so expensive? What's the incentive of being expensive? That's what I want to know.
Americans spend the most per person of any country in the world for healthcare. But the free market is more efficient, you screech. But in America, private systems often aren't efficient at all. Private drug companies have an incentive to charge whatever they can get away with for pharmaceuticals. In Canada, a carton of insulin costs about $20. In the US, it costs $300.
Wow.
And with private insurance companies footing the bill, hospitals have an incentive to get as much money out of patients as possible too. In 2015,
you know what's
the
crazy?
average cost of
When my wife was pregnant from our first daughter, New York, man, she had a very good insurance. But in New York, she was visiting the doctor or the hospital like every week. Then when we moved to Wisconsin, it was like one every 3 months or 4 months. Again, some of these it's true. I acknowledge there's a problem here with the healthcare, right? But we have to acknowledge how different system of healthcare work, right? My experience I live in various states here in United States, even including Puerto Rico, right? Puerto Rico has a different kind of state healthcare as well, and they have private healthcare. But, to visit the doctor, right, it would take you months to just go there and visit the doctor. There's so many people with accessible healthcare, right? And the incentive to just allow private healthcare to allow and just give opportunity to other people is very low. So you have to wait 5 or 6 months, right? I got sick once. It was in my 20s, 22, right? And I have some weird thing going on. They said I almost died or something. I don't believe it, but I feel horrible. And I waited 24 hours just to the doctor to attend me. See, I didn't like that, right? I was really feeling bad. And the thing is that there were other people. I come to the States, right? I have a healthcare, and they attend me in just a couple minutes. So you have to see where it's not as easy. We throw money somewhere, and this is it, and this is it. No, there's some inside minutia stuff. Like there's some things going on. And I don't know. I'm not an expert in this topic, but I'm just talking from my experience.
Of an MRI scan in the US was $1,119, but it was only $215 in Australia. Spain, about $181. And our healthcare system is so inefficient that we spend over a third of our cost on administration.
Oh,
the
that's
United
true.
States spends significantly more on administration than we spend on preventative or long-term healthcare.
Hey, bro, I agree with that. Like just dismantle that. I agree with that.
That's just
That would save a lot of money.
not smart. Okay, we get it. We all know that American healthcare is so much more expensive, you say, but that's the cost of having the freest freedom in God's favorite country. Well, guess what? Medical procedures that are totally free in Britain, like giving birth, cost tens of thousands of dollars in the United States. I mean, you want to talk about the cost of freedom. Sadly, because of these high costs, Americans often avoid going to the doctor, something almost half the population say they do. With shoddy or non-existent health insurance, Americans will wait until their conditions force them into the emergency room where treatment is far
That is
more
so true.
expensive. Again, not a smart system. Quite often, they end up putting off medical visits and dying. Susan Finley, a 53-year-old Walmart employee in Colorado, got pneumonia and took one day off of work beyond what Walmart's policy allows. So of course, Walmart's gonna Walmart, which they did by firing her.
Man, that's
Without her
not cool.
job, she lost her nominal health care coverage, she struggled to find new work, and after avoiding a visit to the doctor for flu-like symptoms, she was found dead in her apartment. When Americans do manage to get treated, they frequently can't afford it. Simple, life-saving treatments can cost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if they don't have really good insurance, they're forced to take on medical debt. Tens of millions of Americans owe medical debt, often into the tens of thousands of dollars. Meanwhile, in a country like Britain or Norway, medical debt is almost unheard of. But hey, that's why GoFundMe is such a critical component of American healthcare.
Now, what type of demographics? Let's go a little bit into the inside baseball. What type of demographics are the one that overuse the healthcare system? American healthcare system. I'm just asking questions here. What type of society, what type of demographic here in the state are overusing the system? I do believe that, healthcare should not be overboard by people that are very unhealthy. The reason I say this because I work in the financial industry, selling life insurance, and I do know a little bit about these kind of things and the customers and demographic that I work with. And clearly, there's a lot on this conversation is not being talked about that could be disingenuous, right? I'm not saying there's problems. There are problems, right? They are real problems, and we need to fix them. However, just talking about broad terms when it comes to this, we might be missing certain things.
1 in 3 GoFundMe campaigns is now for medical bills. I'll repeat that. 1 in 3 GoFundMe campaigns is now
It's true.
for medical bills.
You know what's crazy?
America-
It's true. I will believe that stats because back in the day when I used to be in Facebook, I'm not in Facebook anymore. I will see a lot of, I need to go to a dental. I need to raise some money for this. My legs are going to be amputated. It's true. There's a high tendency of using GoFundMe for medical bills, yeah.
America is such a strong, powerful, rich, and great country that its citizens have to beg strangers on the internet for money so they can get life-saving treatments that are free in the rest of the developed world. But hey, that's just healthcare. Americans get terrible deals wherever you look. Let's take work, for example. Americans work longer hours than people in any other rich country in the world, and that's not because they enjoy sleep deprivation and not seeing their families for days at a time. It's because they don't want to starve, or freeze, or die. See, America has the least generous job support programs, the least generous family benefits, and the least generous unemployment benefits of any wealthy country. It's one of the only countries on Earth that doesn't guarantee paid time off for vacations. It doesn't even help provide paid time off for parents who just had a child. And it's not coincidental that we're also one of the most hostile countries to workers' rights. America has one of the lowest unionization rates in the entire world. Maybe this deprivation, our refusal to give people the means to lead a good, dignified life commensurate with...
Hold on. I have to step in here, man. Unions has so much power in the state. Anybody from New York City. There's something called the MTA, one of the strongest unions in the entire United States. Right? These people are shutting down the train every time they can. And they always get what they want. And they get paid even during strikes. What are you talking about, man? Again, we can have a conversation about this, but just putting a blank statement like that, man. What about state universities? You still get a strike, you still get paid. And you get paid those high salaries too, man. And these are unionized work jobs. I'm not saying unions are very important, because back in the day, a lot of these people would just take advantage of workers. Very important. But there's a time and place for these things. Now they're just trying to just suck through the system. MTA, man, and I'm just calling them out. They were always fixing stuff. They were always trying to clean stuff. They were always, but you would never see it. And they will always have strikes. They always had to raise their payments of the swipes of the cards. I mean, everything, man. Again, we have to be careful when we have a conversation like this, right? And not pull a blank statement of it is like this. Or we had the worst unionized, whatever. We might have the worst unionized organization, whatever. But there's a reason for these things, man. Do you want an MTA union in all your states? That's crazy. And unions are very important because it gives you representation. And for some families, it will give you your benefits. They're very important. But, if we're going to throw a statement like this, we have to call people by name as well. It's my opinion.
How rich our country is can explain a bit of what we've seen in the United States over the last few decades. Fraying communities, rising rates of depression and suicide, huge numbers of deaths from drug overdoses. These so-called deaths of despair, suicide, drug overdoses, alcoholic liver disease, they're one big reason why American life expectancy has actually started to decline over the...
But what is it? Do we want free drugs? We want free drinks? But they don't expect to have a lower mortality rate? The reason I'm saying this, and I'm going to just let the video play, is because I know some backgrounds, right, of this conversation. And we have to mention the states that are having this problem. There's specific states that do have this problem in a higher rate. Just because right now it seems like they're putting the blame to the entire country. And again, there's states that they don't just care. They just like to live their way they're living and they're fine. But there's some states, right? Interesting enough, he's mentioned this about drugs, that they allow drugs. Even they provide drugs to people. But then you're expecting the mortality rate to go high. I don't know, man.
For the last few years.
I might be just ranting here.
And with such poor conditions, it's not a surprise that poverty is so rampant in the United States. America devotes a smaller percentage of spending on social welfare than any other industrialized economy because, say it with me, socialism is evil. It's evil. Go to Denmark and try telling those happy, healthy families enjoying their paid vacation that their system of government is evil. Guess what? I guarantee they'll know you're an American. But I digress. America also has the highest rate of child poverty of any developed country, and the highest percentage of workers earning significantly less than the national median income. That seems pretty evil to me. especially since such a tiny fraction take as much of your money from themselves and their families as you will let them. All the while, both parties smile and shake hands. Across every single metric, no people accept a worse deal than Americans today. High taxes, high cost of living
Very high
for
taxes.
next to nothing in return from the government.
But what state, man? What state has the highest taxes? Because you go to New Hampshire, they have no income tax. But then you go to New York, you're gonna get a 36 to 40% income tax on top of the federal tax. You know, it's city tax as well. See, if we're gonna talk about this kind of topic, let's just call names. Let's call people by their name. Because just a couple states, they really have these kind of problems, right? You can name them. But just put it all the burden in the rest of the states. It's not fair. It's not fair. And for those people that know very well how the United States works, you guys are gonna agree with me. Some of you guys are gonna disagree with me, right? But I cannot put the blame of Wisconsineers, right, of Wisconsinites, for whatever New York is doing. They're okay with their lifestyle. They're okay. But then you have this problem from New York, and New York City is particularly, of Buffalo. You bring all these problems to the other state. They have to carry your weight. No, man. Nah. We're not doing that. This video, you should say, okay, this state have a very high population of homeless. And they also have this problem, which is causing the rest of the state to carry the burden. If you went like that, I'll be, you know what? I like this video. Somehow, we're not recognizing what kind of states are having these kind of problems, and we don't want to point the fingers, right? From one American to the other, we having this conversation. We have it serious, and I do agree. There's some places in Europe, man. They have some things very nice aligned, right? But we can have this in the United States, but you have to be honest when it comes out to this kind of conversations.
The most expensive healthcare system for the worst health outcomes. More money taken from workers for the highest rate of child poverty. We are the richest country in the history of the world, but we have fewer miles of high-speed rail than Uzbekistan. We are the greatest country in the world, yet we have the most people in prison of any country, and the highest incarceration rate as well.
But why? Why? And what kind of demographics? I don't want to get too much into it. I just want to listen to this guy because right now...
And a higher rate of police killings than in Angola and Sudan. America is bad at everything because instead of choosing to make life better for people through a public healthcare system or more generous childcare policies or better public transit or programs that allow people to spend more time with their families, American law is designed and crafted to protect a class of parasitical middleman industries. Instead of using a proportionally tiny piece of the massive amount of the wealth in this country to make people's lives healthier and happier, most of our elected leaders are, and have been for generations, engaged in a massive project of looting, gently and lovingly guiding as much money as possible from working people into the pockets of the well-connected and the ultra-rich. Think about that as we start hearing about the inevitable rise in homelessness, poverty, starvation, and sickness that will occur during these coming months and years in the greatest, strongest, richest, most powerful country on the face of the earth. I'm David Cross for the Gravel Institute.
Gravel Institute. Hey man, good. Beside everything, nice video, nice quality. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Overall, it's like saying, and I'll say this, there's certain things that are never going to work in Europe that are here in the United States. I think the Second Amendment, the freedom of just bear arms, will not work in a lot of countries in Europe. That's how it is, man. Certain things, even our choices of eating, it will not work in certain other places in Europe because it's not how people move over there. But we move like this over here. We need to work on a lot of things. That I completely agree. However, we have to get into the minutia and we have to point fingers. Just talking about broadly about problems that we have as an American. And I do agree with a lot of these talking points. But why not telling what state and what kind of places that, because it will. Let me just be quiet here. This video is not about this. I do agree. Our healthcare system needs some, not reforms, because we have made so many reforms that I think we messed it up. But we need something to make it better. I do agree. However, I'm not gonna pretend here, like I see in a lot of reaction videos about Americans, feel sorry for their country, and I don't know. They still seem that they like to just get I don't know. They just love the putting down kind of thing. Nah, man, we need to work on a lot of things, and I do agree. But at the same time, right, we chose to live like this. We Appalachian. Why are you talking about Appalachians? Appalachians in the middle of nowhere. They just love to live like that. They just love to live like that. But believe me, these people get free help actually from volunteers, and I like that. Volunteers, going there and just giving free service. I like that. Why not? Those kind of people, they just live. It's like comparing a guy from Los Angeles to an Appalachian. They completely lifestyles, man. Completely. Some of these guys, they just live in the hood, like couple woods, and I don't know, man. It's a long conversations, and I used to believe that United States need free healthcare back in the day, but then the more I understand the system, it's not the money. Clearly, we have the money, but it's not the money, folks. Because in the United States, for some reason, putting money to something, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, folks. Putting money, we be in the since Ronald Reagan, we launched a war against drugs. We fail. We launched a war against poverty. We fail, and we put trillions of dollars, trillions. Clearly, putting money like that into a problem does not fix it. We need real fix, right? Putting money does not fix it. Police, right? So police, there's a lot of problem with the police, but putting more money into the police does not fix it. We need real tangible solutions where we can just see a real change. The premise of the title, why America sucks at everything? Well, clearly I don't agree, but there's certain things that I agree in the video. However, just keep putting the country down like that. Yeah, it doesn't feel like we're fixing anything. Like, you just keep putting blame into something that we know based on the world's opinion that we suck. I guess we suck, right? Well, yeah, a couple things. Healthcare, yeah, we need to fix it somehow. I don't know, but I don't think putting more money will fix it because we already put in too much money. So clearly, that's not the problem. We have to mention what states are just driving this thing down to the hell, right? We have to mention them, and we have to be honest, right? We cannot put things under the rug. We have to mention it, right? And we have to mention what states are just driving all the taxes of healthcare, all the incentives for healthcare. Yeah. And lastly, we have to acknowledge that Europe and the United States, they're not the same. They don't work the same. They don't move the same, right? The closest thing will be for Canada, but then I don't want to get into the conclusions because then you have a lot of that moving back and forward between them, right? Some people go to Canada just to get some free service, but then some Canadians, they have to wait a little bit longer, so they have to come down to the States. Devin Larratt here is a well-known arm wrestler, right? He had to come down to Louisiana to get some treatment for stem cells because in Canada, they don't even give the service. And he said that the service wasn't even that expensive. So, see, we have to be careful how we just talk about these things. Of course, I'm not a professional. This is my disclaimer. This is my own experience going to different places, just trying a little bit of different healthcare systems. And I got to the point that it's like, okay, man, this is not as easy as putting a video and saying that we suck. There's more to the minutia, and we had to just go there and start naming names. All right? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hey, in the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. I'm out. Peace.